Hey everybody, I'm CJ Bachman. Welcome to this week's episode of the One SEO podcast. This week we're going to be talking about revenue engines and why your business needs at least 4 of them to be successful. Don't worry, we're going to take care of your fears, help you understand the channels. Let's get right into it. So today on the podcast, I am joined by Nick and Jill. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey.
Nick, I've done 1 or 2 podcasts with you, but Jill, is this our first one?
It is our first one, yeah.
That's
We've done
awesome.
like little snippets here and there.
Yeah,
So,
well, let's have some fun and let's get right into it. So we want to talk about revenue engines. Can you explain what a revenue engine is and why the recommendation is that businesses really need to have at least 4?
Yeah. So a revenue engine is something that provides lead volume, provides revenue into the company, and typically 4 is a standard practice across the board. And normally the 4 that you're working with is 1, inbound marketing to some sort of capacity. That can be SEO, PPC, traditional advertising, radio, also partnerships, whether you're a local service provider or if you're in professional services, any sort of partnerships that refer any type of leads over to you. Also some sort of sales team or CSRs. And then normally people flex the 4th one. Once they've got those 3 initially working, then they start working on a 4th one, which could be anything that is working for you, whether it's like cold email outreach or whether it's, some other sort of engine that could help promote more lead volume.
So how can businesses identify their potential revenue engines and what criteria should be used to evaluate their viability?
I would say first, understand where your lead volume is coming from, what channels, how do leads come into you, how are they being sold, how many that are being closed, or if it's new patients or new clients, like where are those people coming from initially? And that will help you decide out of those people that you already closed, what buckets they fall into for the standard 3 revenue engines. And then that will help you understand which buckets you need to fill up more, whether maybe you have a ton of partnerships coming in and that's what you've been running off of the entire business off of, and you need to pour some into the marketing bucket. I would start there and determine what's lacking to be able to decide where you need to put your money first, and then continue to let the one that's filling up continue to do its job.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think really you kind of start with saying, okay, where are my current good leads coming from, right? And being able to understand that, whether it's referral, a Google channel, Instagram, whatever the case may be. So I think really starting there and saying, where are my current leads coming from that are actually good quality leads that I'm closing and I'm able to work with? Yeah. That's going to tell you, the channels that you need to put the most into. Then I think it's helpful to really look at where your competitors, what spaces they're playing in. Yeah. How can I take advantage of it? And it doesn't always have to be in the digital space. Some of those channels could be certain forums that you need to play in because the activity is so high. Yes. Certain profiles that you might need to have. If you're a roofer, there are profiles out there specifically for roofing contractors to, talk about pros and cons and things like that. So I think those 2 steps really will help narrow it down. And then from there, it's about testing and seeing how it works from you. Yeah. So number 1, really look at where your current leads are coming from that are actually good leads that are closing for you. And then number 2, look at where your competitors are. What spaces, what channels are they playing in? And then test from there. Yeah. For startups and for small businesses, let's kind of talk about that because that's a little bit different. So how realistic is it for them to develop 4 channels?
So I would say that it does go back to what kind of our answer to our initial question of like, you've got to determine where a lead's coming through right now. I will say this, a lot of people who come to us, they're working off of their existing book of business. They've built up business over time by just doing great work and having people refer others and then their existing book come back to them. But that's obviously not the way to grow your business long term. And then a lot of times what we see is when people rely on that existing book, they then maybe add in a Google advertising channel. And then they rely on that PPC campaign or they rely on LSAs, local service ads. And then the business is fully relied on 2 things that actually can't systematically grow the company the way that you want it to grow. So I would double check that to see if that's what you're currently doing. If you are, then you automatically know that you've got to add in more channels.
Right.
Yeah. And I think like referrals, especially for like really new startups, that's going to be your best source of leads by far. All you have to focus on is doing good work, getting results for your clients, whoever you're working with, and those referrals are going to come in. So just doing the good work. Referrals and cold outreach will be your first 2 biggest ways to get people in there. And then once you guys have those established, you got a good product, that's when you can start focusing on those other revenue streams like Google Ads or Yelp, something like that.
Yeah, I think the only difference for startups and for smaller businesses is that they don't have a lot of that data and a lot of the insights in the beginning to make those decisions. So it really starts with, doing the basics. First, getting your optimization for SEO in place so that your website can actually start to build up traffic. And then it's, potentially running, an ad campaign and seeing how that performs for you. And there are a ton of free profiles and things like that people need to do. And then, Nick, to your point, collecting those reviews so that every single client that you go out and perform great work for now has the ability to give you that review that can also then help with the word of mouth.
So true.
So we're talking about 4 channels, but there are so many businesses out there that are really reliant on one channel. And Jill, you had mentioned, like, if you're only expecting Google to be the one that's going to drive your business forward, what's the true detriment to really relying on one channel?
Lack of lead, lack of growth.
Yeah. Don't do it. I mean, just like, if someone comes to me or Jill, like, we talk with people all day when they're trying to grow their businesses, and if they don't have things right on the back end and they're putting all their money, $10,000, $20,000 into Google Ads, and they're it'll be successful. But if that's your only source of leads and Google just falls off the earth or something really terrible happens, you're not going to be able to pay your 5, 10, 15 trucks, all your employees. And then you're going to start panicking. You're going to reach out to your agency, whoever you're working with, and seeing what's going on. And that sometimes there's not one answer. You got to make sure things are working.
And you also want to have levers that you can pull when the time is right. So, like, for example, Facebook went down here recently for a period of time. It went down for everybody. So if somebody was relying on Facebook to be their only channel, well, today really sucks for them, right? And Google, if they change an algorithm, or if they make an update and that update changes your performance in that channel, and you don't have another channel ready to go. So it, definitely make sure that those revenue channels are there. In what ways can investing in new technology enable businesses to uncover new revenue channels?
I would say that happens a lot with AI. Really. We've seen that a lot happen already, where clients who really focus on being technology focused forward has really developed a lot of other channels that have worked for them specific to their business. And it depends on if you're, a lawyer, or if you're in dentistry, or if you're in home services. It kind of differs between the verticals, but across the board, I've seen people just come to me with random recommendations, or even they'll find out through a new CRM software that actually in the past Yelp worked better for them versus Google Ads. And now they're like, hold on, let me shift some budget there because I didn't even have that data beforehand. So technology helps us move faster and smarter. It takes out the human error part too. So I would always say, invest in technology across the board for your company.
And there's also with that technology, and you mentioned a couple, but I have 2 really good examples of recent. I had a lawyer who used AI to create a nurturing drip email campaign. Just using AI. And they were in the personal injury space. So there's only so many emails you can send to those individuals, but they were able to build a really successful campaign that, was able to showcase, hey, we can win for you. You don't have to pay unless we win for you. And that helped them gain some extra clients.
That's huge.
And then on the contractor side of things, I believe it was a heating and air conditioning company utilized AI in an SMS campaign to be able to send messages out, bring that back in, get that feedback, summarize it, and then make decisions based on that. And that really helped them enhance their service program because they were able to poll their clients all really quickly, understand what some of the frustrations were, enhance that program, which ultimately led to new installs and replacements, and it was really beneficial.
Very cool.
And if anybody even to the most basics of technology, if you're trying to learn the secrets, join a Facebook group with a bunch of lawyers. Talk to a guy who is where you want to be in 5 years, revenue-wise, business-wise. And I guarantee he has technology he's using that's AI that just is helping him ease his process, which is allowing him to hire good people and outsource his work so he can just focus on growing his business. So just talk to people, and you're going to find all the secrets of what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes into our last and final question is, there are so many entrepreneurs that are hesitant to diversify. They're really just afraid to dilute their brand, or that, promoting on a different channel isn't going to have the same result for them. What advice would you give to those individuals who are really just afraid to take that step of opening up new channels, new revenue streams?
I would think one's like the last time you purchased something or used a service without seeing that brand across multiple channels, or just building trust with that brand. Anybody that I give business, it's someone that I've either used before, I've been referred over to, I saw an ad, I see a truck somewhere. So you just got to really not one thing is going to fit all. Like, yeah, you can really make a business and make a living off of cold call and referrals, but if you want to take it to that next level, you got to diversify and just showcase yourself as the expert.
I also think you have to be afraid of the reverse, and that is that if you don't, don't diversify, how will your business sustain if your revenue stream, if your growth engine shuts down or doesn't work, or to Facebook's point, goes down for a small period of time? How are you going to fill your job boards, or how are you going to keep your roster full, or whatever the case may be? So I think just switching that fear, right? Because AI is not your competition. Your competitors using AI, that's your real threat, right?
Yeah. And I would ask the question, like, if you're having trouble wanting to diversify, do you really want to grow? Like, at the end of the day, like, that the two go together. So if you're that nervous, then you need to ask yourself, am I really looking to grow my company? And if that still makes you nervous, I would, like, as you continue to diversify and build out your revenue engines, like, over the course of a quarter, look back and say, what's 2 things that we did really well with our buckets, and what's 2 things that we can do better or that we need to fix. And then that way you're always knowing how you're improving, but you also know what you need to fix as well. And then that makes it easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a great episode. Hopefully you were able to pull a couple of little tidbits out. Jill, Nick, thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time on the One SEO podcast.